morning. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
We hear you, Kevin.
Okay,
Are
good.
you close
Thank
to
you.
your mic?
I might be. Is that okay or?
Still a bit faint.
Oh, okay. Oh, weird. Trying to. Trying to get into my mic settings. Is that any better?
Yeah, it's a little better. Yep.
Okay. All right.
Good morning, directors. You have a quorum, and so would like to call the meeting to order for Wednesday, January 25th, First Nations Relations Committee. And the first order of business will be to elect a chair and vice chair for 2023. So if I could ask for nominations for the position of chair, please.
I'll nominate Kevin Jules.
Director,
I'll second that.
Director Jules, you've been nominated. Would you accept that nomination?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there further nominations for the position of chair for the third and last time? Hearing none, we'll declare Director Jules elected by acclamation as chair for the First Nations Relations Committee and move on to the election for the vice chair position. Again, if I could ask for nominations, please.
I would nominate Director Davis.
Director Davis, would you accept that nomination?
Yes, I'd accept that with thanks.
You accept? Thank you. Are there any further nominations for the position of vice chair for the third and last time? And hearing none, we'll declare Director Davis elected as vice chair for the committee for 2023. Thank you very much. And now I will turn the meeting over to Director Jules. At your pleasure, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the nomination, and yeah, I look forward to chairing the meeting and getting back into these meetings here. So I guess that moves us on to E, which is the adoption of the public agenda.
So moved, Colburn.
Thank you.
Second, Davis.
Thank you. Yeah. Any discussion? I know I'll have to get used to the formality again because I do chair my executive meetings as well, so they are run a little differently. So don't mind me as I get reused to this setting. Thank you. Do we call question? Do I call question?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you have a mover and seconder, so the question is on the floor for debate and a vote.
Okay, all right, thank you. So we'll call question. And is it all in favor? Is that correct?
Yes, now we do have yourself and Director Vanesh participating via Teams. So
Yeah.
it would be important as well to count the negatives. If there's anyone opposed, then we would want to note that for the record.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. So that moves us on to petitions and delegations, adoptions of the minutes.
I'll move adoption of the minutes from June 29th.
Thank you. It's been half a year. Wow.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will call question. Motion carried. Business arising from minutes. Chair's report. Schedule of our upcoming meetings. Move that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
So moved, Colburn.
Second.
Any discussion? Any opposed?
Mr.
Oh,
Chair,
yes.
if I may, this is just a schedule that we've gone with the last several years, no changes or amendments to it. So unless the committee wants to change what we've been doing, it's what you've seen in previous years.
Okay, thank you. And I see it's every Wednesday. Yeah, okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, you're currently on the motion to receive the report, and then following that, there could be a motion to put forward to approve the schedule as presented.
Yes, motion to receive. I believe I did a motion to receive the report. Any objections? Any abstain? Hearing none. So we move on to B.
So I would move
That
B. Oh, sorry, Chair.
Thank you. Oh, no, go ahead.
I would move B that the schedule be approved.
Thank you.
I'll second that. Vanesh.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Open for discussion. Hearing none. Motion carried. Addition of a territorial acknowledgement on written correspondence.
Mr. Chairman, there's also a video, I think, that will be presented with the staff report once it's on the floor.
Okay.
I think we just need a motion to receipt.
I'll move receipt of the staff report.
And I can second that, Colburn.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, I believe Renee will speak to this.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Good morning,
The
Chair
floor is yours.
Jules and directors. Prior to opening discussion for the territorial acknowledgement, I'd like to show a short video on territorial acknowledgements. The video was developed by Mayahala Integrated Services, a team led by Tennille Johnson, and they've developed a series of 3 educational videos to help improve the understanding of local First Nations, support anti-racism, and cultural sensitivity awareness. The videos are developed through a Train the Trainer workshop, and they were funded by the Strengthening Communities grant that both the city and SRD partnered with and received funds last year. This is the first public viewing of this video, and there's a few final edits, but just given the timing of the topic today, wanted to share it. The videos are essentially designed to open conversation in a lunch and learn style format. There'll be 3 Train the Trainer sessions this spring, and the intention is that non-Indigenous people will deliver the workshops in their workplaces and in their community alongside First Nation witness who would attend with them. Mayahala has secured funding, the original funding has 3 Train the Trainer workshops this spring, and then they've received additional funding to do another 3 in the fall, and we have more than 25 people who are interested in attending the Train the Trainer workshop so far. Trainers will have access to these videos and materials to share and host a discussion at their workplace or in their community. And so I think we can go ahead and watch the video.
You're on Liquidalk. Kwakwaka'wakw recognizes 17 tribes, some of which have vanished. The name Kwakwaka'wakw was chosen by the tribes to replace the Kwagioth terminology that was being used by European arrivals to describe all tribes in this area. In actuality, Kwagioth is a single community. Of the 17 tribes, only 14 tribes are recognized by Indigenous Services Canada. Kwakwaka'wakw tribes are also commonly referred to as being in 2 regions, northern and southern. The Liquidalk belong to the southern Kwakwaka'wakw and have stewarded the lands and waters in the area now known as Campbell River since time immemorial for those that invaded and colonialized the area.
Liquido. Wiwe Kum, Wiwe Ke, and Kwika are 3 tribes that make up the Liquido. Liquido refers to a large seaworm that cannot be killed easily, and if cut into pieces survive and swim away. Therefore, Liquido meaning unkillable thing. Liquido language is derived from the northern Wakashan language family. The dialect spoken by the tribes is known as Likwala, which is one of 5 language dialects amongst the Kwakwaka'wakw people.
Wewakum, Wewakai, and Kwika. Kwika is currently a small tribe of roughly 21 members as identified by Indigenous Services Canada. They do not have a land base local to Campbell River but are members of the Liquidalk. Their homelands include the east side of Phillips Arm, northwest of Stewart Island, and the Discovery Islands. Kwika has approximately 68.8 hectares of reserve land. Wewakum is a much larger nation with over 600 members. They have reserve land in the downtown core of Campbell River. They also hold reserve land in Hameno, also known as Hayden Bay, Lockborough Inlet, and Matlatin, which is Green Point, which are all located among the Discovery Islands. Wewakum holds 269 hectares of reserve land. Wewakai is double the size of their Wewakum relations at over 1,200 members. They have 2 residential reserves, Quinsam and Cape Mudge. Wewakai also holds reserve land title in Drew Harbor, Open Bay, and Village Bay, all located on Quadra Island. In total, Wewakai has 663.1 hectares of reserve land.
Hamalko and Clowetsis. Indigenous Services Canada uses a program called Addition to Reserve, or ATR, to allocate Indian Reserve land to First Nations. This would be a parcel of land added as an expansion of existing reserve lands of a First Nation or land that creates a new Indian reserve. First Nations can access this program through an application to Indigenous Services Canada. These lands aren't necessarily provided within the applying nation's traditional territory. There are many examples of First Nations being allocated Indian reserve land in another nation's traditional territory. This is often done without consultation with the nations that own the lands and waters of the intended placement. 2 examples locally are that of Hamalko First Nation and Clowetsis. Hamalko's traditional territory is Butte Inlet and the Hamalko Ice Fields. They hold Indian reserve land on Bartlett Island, in Bear Bay, Mushkin, Orford Bay, and Potato Point. In the 1990s, Hamalko engaged in a land exchange with the province of British Columbia which allocated them Indian Reserve land on the south end of Campbell River in Lake Oto territory. Clowetsees are the traditional keepers and inhabitants of Turner Island. In 2011, Clowetsees began discussions with the province of British Columbia for the creation of a new Indian reserve. In 2016, an offer was made for a parcel of land in South Campbell River owned by Timber West. In 2018, allocation of land through addition to reserve was completed, and Clowetsees was provided Indian Reserve land in Lake Oto territory.
The term immemorial refers to something being so old that there is no memory of it. This may be the case of the European settlers in Canada. However, First Nations have held onto their history through the story. Every First Nation in the world will have a flood story, a story that tells of the Great Flood and how the nation survived. They'll always have a creation story. This often involves supernatural beings that transform into humans to establish our nimas, families. These stories are held in high regard amongst the nations and are considered sacred and vital to survival. Acknowledgement. Lake Oto know their history and it is marked on the land in form of the old village sites, fish traps, clam gardens, and culturally modified trees. They continue to fish in the Johnson Strait, gather foods and medicines, collect and weave cedar, hunt elk and deer in the forest, and trap. They are strongly connected to continue the act of stewards over their waters and lands, and taught by the ancestors and elders before them. Acknowledging Lake Oto territory is putting the voice to true owners of the land. Acknowledging that you are the guests here is an act of reconciliation and a step towards a greater understanding of the impact of colonization. Acknowledging is a historical protocol. It is instilling the awareness of the rightful stewards of their territory. It is something that is used in ceremony to honor the hosts of the land where the ceremony is being held. It is also a method of presenting yourself as an ally to the community. This is not a token gesture, it is a meaningful practice.
All right. So the Strathcona Regional District's responsibility to the land will go far beyond the traditional territories of the Lake Oto people and expands into the Nuu-chah-nulth and Coast Salish territories as well. So I think if anybody has any questions or comments regarding the video, if not, we can go into the discussion regarding our written territorial acknowledgements.
Thank you, thank you. I'll open up the floor if anyone has any questions. Sorry.
I have a question, Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
So this project then, will it be extended to the other nations that you are, groups that you mentioned, and do a video that is similar to that? Or is this the one video that's being, that will be presented out of that grant money?
No, there are 3 videos. They are centered around Campbell River, but will touch some of the other nations as well. So once, you know, I do the Train the Trainer workshop, maybe we can see how that would work with some of the other nations and expand the training further. Some of them would be appropriate and reference the other nations. I can't remember the exact content of the other 2 that are being finalized.
Thank you for that. That was really powerful, and I'd just love to see it extended to the other nations and language groups that our borders touch in the regional district. So,
Thank you. Thank you. I see Mark has his hand up. You are muted. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just curious about on the territorial acknowledgement why Slam and Nation wasn't included. You know, Slam and Nation does own land on Cortez, and you know, as far as I've known over the years, that's a nation that recognizes that Cortez is the unceded territory of the Slam and Homalco and Clahoos. So just curious why Slam and wasn't included.
I'd have to do some more research on that. They're not one of the 10 First Nations that we have worked with in the past, but I know that we've, you know, had some initial discussions with them over the Connected Coast project. So we'll have to do a little more digging on that one.
Okay, if you're interested, like there is reserve land on the south end of Cortez. It's called Pekanonum 3, and jurisdiction code 772, and it says I'm looking at the SRD maps, and it says it's Slam and Nation land. So I would like that to be included, unless I'm wrong in some way.
All right. Thank you. Was that request to be put on the table right now? Was this an acknowledgement of everyone? Because it's like there's a lot that wasn't included, but I mean.
Yes, sorry, Mr. Chairman, I can respond to that. This particular video was designed for the Campbell River and to help spread the word throughout Campbell River, and not intended to be used with the, you know, it doesn't address the other nations, just as you mentioned. So this was just educational piece to, you know, share why we do a territorial acknowledgement and to share information about the First Nations within Campbell River. And yeah, just kind of to set the stage for our written territorial acknowledgement discussion coming up.
If I can, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think there may be a little bit of confusion. So the video was some good background for the territorial acknowledgement, but the report we have, which is also on the table for discussion, is that this is the territorial acknowledgement that we provided is one that would be recognized by the SRD in written correspondence and, you know, email, report writing. So just so folks, if they're off track, get back on track. That again, the video is helpful, a little background information, but the report on the table has alternatives should the committee choose to make a motion to support one of them.
Thank you. Thank you. That was an amazing video. It was awesome. Any more speakers? Yes, Julie.
I'm a second
Director
time, so I
Davis?
would defer to the.
Go ahead, Director Davis.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to the territorial acknowledgements as written here. I mean, personally, I found it a bit wordy that we're also directly acknowledging the local First Nations for where the board office is, and I thought it might be more appropriate to just stick with the part on page 2 there where it says, well, essentially we recognize that we operate within traditional treaty and unceded territories of the First Nations that are listed throughout the regional district, including apparently the Tla'amin First Nations. So that's my opinion on it. I'd certainly bring it forward as a motion, but it would be good to hear more discussion on that.
Okay, thank you.
I have something I'd
Yes.
like to add, if I may.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Thank you for the important work. I'm really happy to see. I think it's really important that we acknowledge that the lands we live and work on are the traditional unceded lands of First Nations. My comment is also regarding the territorial acknowledgement, and here the Strathcona Regional District is a large region. It's a construct which encompasses many nation territories. Since I've joined the board, I've been encouraged to, quote, think regionally, as well as for the benefit of Area C. And I'm mentioning that because when I read the territorial acknowledgement, I wondered about switching around the two phrases and beginning by acknowledging the many nations on whose territories we operate, and completing the statement with the special acknowledgement of the location of the corporate office and recreation complex. So I would maybe recommend that it read something more like, the Strathcona Regional District respectfully acknowledges we operate within the traditional treaty and unceded territories of, and then the list of them, and then add the specific acknowledgement of where our corporate office is after that. And I do have one other question regarding the acknowledgement. It's meant to be on written materials, and I'm curious if that would include business cards, because that seems like a lot of words for something like that.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, just a comment on how staff and our First Nations Liaisons Coordinator develops these. So we consult the committee board is happy to make any decisions, changes, alterations they want to that. Just some background on how we've come up with that. This is in consultation with the First Nations, with chiefs, councils, discussions with various members of the nations. And what we do is we take those discussions and then we present collectively what they would like us to see. That's not to say you can't make changes and recommendations to them, but I think this is the work of our coordinator that's come forward and said, this is what the nations support. You can add anything else you want, but that's how we come up with it.
I have a follow-up question. So does that mean that the 10 listed nations in this territorial acknowledgement all agreed that it would be important to prioritize the Leakwiltalk and the Campbell River bands because of where our office is? Is that something that is that correct?
No, I consulted with the core territory that we are on in Campbell River. Good morning, directors, pardon me. And this is the territory we are on in Campbell River. This is Leakwiltalk territory. It would have been very onerous for me to consult with every First Nation, although in my consultation with very respected elders and community members, I was advised to make an acknowledgement on the core territory that this office is, at the same time acknowledging the other 10 First Nations where the SRD has administrative boundaries. Now, to go into that, the other 10 First Nations is the names as addressed on their website and the spelling. We're not going into the phonetics, the other different nuances, because that would be very onerous. However, this was a decision that I made based on consultation, and as I said, it is Leakwiltalk territory, and that is why I address it as the core. And for your answer, no, I did not consult with the other 10 First Nations, but I did want to acknowledge them respectfully in this acknowledgement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, I think the acknowledgement is great. I think it's an amazing step forward in reconciliation, and I think it's something that should be practiced at every one of our meetings, and it has been, at our from our Strathcona level meetings that they have done the territorial acknowledgement, and now with the respected acknowledgement to the treaty as well is amazing. Is there any more questions? I believe Julie and then Mark. Did you still have a question?
I'm good, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mark.
So just following up on the Slam Nation, do I need to make a motion to have that included in the acknowledgement, or what? I'm looking for advice on how to include them as well.
Mr. Chairman, you still have the motion to receive the report on the floor. So I think once you've dealt with that, then if someone wishes to make a motion, and there are some alternatives included in the report, as the CAO mentioned, then of course any motion can be amended by subsequent motion.
Okay. Yes, we did the motion to receive, and I believe if there aren't any questions, do we? I'll call question, and that'll move us on to this number 1 item. Is that correct?
I believe, Mr. Chairman, that is correct. If you've dealt with the motion to receive, then there are some alternatives contained in the staff report for the committee to consider, and you can then start to deal with those if you wish.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I'll call question and move on to the number 1. Would you like it read out, or?
Well, I don't think anyone has put a motion on that floor. I think, Mr. Chair, just call a question on receipt, and then if somebody wants to move an option, they're happy to do so.
Okay, I'll call question on receipt then. Thank you.
All in favor?
Yes, all in favor. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It is technically my Monday, so.
It's all good. All good.
Sorry.
Okay, so we have received a report, and now if it's the will of the committee, somebody can move a motion, make a second motion, create their own.
Yes, Mark, I see your hand is up.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that Slam Nation be included in the territorial acknowledgement.
Process. Has anybody put the recommendation that we do a territorial acknowledgement?
Mr. Chairman, no, they have not.
So what I'm wondering is, should we first do that and then amend it to put in Slam? And what I would say to that is I would almost defer this. What I'd like to see done with this is I'd like to see us do this, but I'd like to defer it till we can get more information, until there has been some contact with the nation that is going to be added to this, just so that there is some dialogue back and forth. But I would love to hear the discussion around the table.
Mr. Chair, if I can jump in. Again, I apologize if I'm repeating myself, and I am not trying to sway the committee in any way, but I think we should be cautious about amending an acknowledgement that our liaison has consulted with the Core First Nations on, and then we just make changes to it. That may not be seen as respectful, and so I'm not saying there can't be the opportunity to, but I would think that would be something that we would want to consult with the nations and research before we just add nations. Our liaison's already done that, and I think that may not be respectful towards them.
Dr. Davis.
You have to just jump in because he can't.
I pretty much wanted to say the same thing as what Dave said. I think it would be disrespectful to do anything other than the motion as it's written. And then if we want to add another nation, we go back to the nations that are on there and make sure that they're all comfortable with that. I know for developing our statement for City Hall that there's feelings between one nation to another, and they need to be considered. So I think before we make a decision on who should be added, that should be asked from the people whose territory it is. Maybe there's a reason that Slayman isn't recognized. Maybe it was an oversight, but I would say we should go with what's there and then make an amendment later.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Director Davis, were you wanting to say something?
Sure. I'll move that we defer this pending further consultations with the First Nations, including Slaman First Nation.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor, seconded. Any discussion?
I have a question. In
Yes.
the opinion of our, of staff, is that an appropriate move on our part? I defer because I don't know the protocols and I don't know the processes, and so I would defer and ask staff if that is an appropriate course of action.
Yes, I would recommend that we do some more research regarding the addition, and then we can expand our consultation further with the other First Nations on the final draft.
Are you suggesting that the consultation would include the layering of the phrasing, or is that just on the addition of the Slam Nation?
Well, I think we can do both at the same time. I don't know that there'll be an opinion other, which one we do first, because the content is the same, but we can make that inquiry.
Thank you, Renee.
Alrighty.
If I can just say one more thing, thank you to the staff who's working on this. There are so many layers and so many feelings about territory and acknowledgement, and I think that the importance of this is important enough that we really need to go back until we have it right. And so I appreciate that, and I appreciate the hard work that's been done already. So,
Mr. Chairman, you have a motion to defer on the floor, and I think it would be appropriate.
Yes.
Once discussion is concluded, to call for the ayes and the nays, and then make a decision.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So the motion is on the floor. Any abstain? Is that correct? Any abstain?
I would ask for all in favor.
Oh, sorry. Okay, all in favor
And opposed.
and opposed?
Motion
carried. Motion carried, thank you. So that will come back at our next meeting?
Correct.
Thank you. So that moves us on to item number 3, which is cultural awareness training. That a report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
so moved, Colburn.
Thank you.
Second, Davis.
Ms. Chair, I
Okay,
believe Azalee will speak to this.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Yes, good morning again. Last year, there were several training opportunities for the Board of Directors, as well as the staff of the Strathcona Regional District, to receive cultural awareness and safety training. I understand this was very well received, and we are seriously considering, based on the board's advice, to bring back some of the same and research some different. So this report is just to ask the board if they would like me to go and research the various cultural awareness training and then to come back with a report with some options for your consideration. Just in terms of background, we are going to be learning some of the language around the history of residential schools, the history around colonization and how that has impacted First Nation people and their relationships with the various governments, how we can move forward. There'll be lots of moving pieces to that, and It's just to see if the board would like me to come back with a report on that. Thank you.
Just one thing, if I can, Mr. Chair, add to that as well.
Yeah.
For those that weren't here in the last term, this is training that we opened up to all the munis and their counselors and staff as well. Quite well received. So anything we come back with, as we want to utilize the regional district as much as possible, focus the training through the regional district and have it available to the staff and elected officials at all the member munis.
Thank you, thank you. Actually, we just had our AGM last weekend, and I was actually kind of bragging about the Strathcona Regional District and the training that we took with our First Nation with the governance and relationship building workshop, and I think that was an amazing workshop that the government to government. It was something I think that could definitely be done again with our new electees. I think it'd be amazing to be a part of again, as it was previously.
I'd like to move that oh, we're still on receipt? Okay,
We're
I'd
still
like
on
to move
receipt.
receipt.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? Any?
So I think we're just on question on receipt, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
All in
So
favor?
we move on. All in favor? Motion carried. So now
I think we have a motion coming forward.
I would like to
Okay.
move that the First Nations Relations Committee recommend that a 2023-2024 elected official cultural awareness training plan be developed for further consideration.
Second, Colburn.
All right, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call question. All in favor? Motion carried. That moves us on to item number 4, which is the First Nations Relations Committee Terms of Reference.
Move receipt, Colburn.
Thank you.
Second.
So,
All
Mr.
right,
Chair, if I can just say a few words here, just bring this forward. If it's of interest to the committee, we got a lot of new committee members. We've had the First Nations Relations Committee for 3 terms now, and it seemed every term that we brought the terms of reference back, committee has had a broader vision of what they'd like to see. So we've provided the terms of reference for you to read, and not sure what folks' thoughts are in terms of that. But if they would like to see a broader scope of that, is an opportunity that staff can bring back a report, and or if they're happy with what the current terms are, we're all good.
Okay, thank you. I'll open up the floor.
I just have a question, if I may, Chair.
Yeah.
This, of course, is open for discussion as we move forward through this term, I'm assuming, for amendments as we work through the proposed work plans and those kinds of things, and just making sure that we can come back to this if there is any broader terms that we want to use.
Yeah, absolutely. Not time sensitive, just thought it was appropriate, our first meeting, have a read through the terms of reference, don't know what kind of thoughts or vision people had, and maybe if it didn't align, it would be a good opportunity. But again, if you want to put this off till you kind of get your feet on the ground and figure out possible limitations that the terms have, we can certainly revisit it at another date.
Yes. Yeah, I can see.
Thank you. I think it's my questions were around the terms of reference, and I read them over, and I was wondering if there was a written report of some of the work which previous iterations of this committee may have completed. I would be interested to read a summary of some of the items that are listed in the terms of reference, like the status of each First Nation identified above with respect to treaty negotiations, is something that the current mandate currently mentions. And so I was thinking that it might be helpful for the committee to receive a summation of the work around the interests, the inventory of all First Nations located within or having interests within the Strathcona Regional District. As a new member to this committee, I thought that would be really helpful to me. And as to a future mandate in the terms of reference, I was curious if it would be reasonable to suggest that this committee consider, among other goals, the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action and how we can move forward with them within the Strathcona Regional District framework. And one last question that I had, would it be appropriate to inquire with the whole board if there are additions or suggestions that they might have for the mandate of this committee? That's not something I'm clear with. If we've already been suggested from the board that we manage that, I'm just asking, because I'm new here.
If I can, Mr. Chair, I don't think they're all questions, and they might have been motions, but anyways, I did hear one question there that I'll revert to. Again, these are decisions of the board, certainly. I'm just going to give you a history of it, and I'm not going to say right, wrong, or indifferent. It's just how we've operated. The board has, and all boards have created committees to focus on issues relating to whatever that committee has developed. Traditionally, the boards have relied on those committees for recommendations and has respected them coming forward. And we've actually had pushback when we've done what you've suggested in that include the board. They've kind of said, hey, that's your job. You do the work and recommend. So we haven't traditionally done that because then the board has said, well, what do you have a committee for? That's what you're supposed to be doing. Don't bring that stuff to us. So focus the work on the committees and bring recommendations. If the board doesn't like them, they don't accept them, but focus the work here. Certainly, if you want to, I think in there, make a motion, we have done a bunch of work for the committee, developed, First Nations portal. We could bring a summary report and presentation on what we've done. Talk about the portal too. Portal's been a useful tool to directors that you may not know about, but it wouldn't be that difficult for us to bring back a summary report of what we've done, where we are, and maybe that will help you moving forward on terms of reference and how they fit or not, because that work will have fit into the current terms of reference and not gone beyond that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, I think we're just still on receipt. If you're happy, we can call question on receipt, and if somebody wants to either make a motion on alternatives that staff have or a director has their own motion, we'd be happy to move on to that.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'll call question on receipt, and I'll open it up to if staff has anything they'd like to add.
I think question on receipt just now.
Yes.
All in favor?
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, motion carried. That the report.
I think we're
Sorry.
I think we're open to a motion if anyone has one or wants to forward one.
Okay, we are open to a motion. Mark, I see your hand is up.
I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with alternative one, staff prepare a report for the FNRC with suggested amendments to the terms of reference.
All right, thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a seconder? Seconder. Okay, thank you. Seconded. Any discussion?
If I may.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be in favor of that motion because I didn't hear anything that expanded the terms of reference necessarily. I think that getting a summary report so we kind of know where we are now, but I don't know that anybody made any recommendations out of our last conversation for any amendments to the actual scope or terms of reference. So I'm just unclear on that motion.
Yeah, Mark, I see your hand is up. Oh,
Can I amend the motion that can I amend the motion I just made to incorporate what Julie's speaking to?
You can, or you can withdraw it if you want.
Okay, I would like to make an amendment to the motion that I just made, that staff prepare a report for the FNRC with suggested amendments to the terms of reference. That includes ways that the SRD can move forward with the recommendations for truth and reconciliation.
Okay, are you okay with that amendment, Director Davis?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. I'll open that up for discussion.
Director Colburn here, and I won't discuss any, but I will have another subsequent after.
Okay, thank you. I
Call the question, I think, Mr. Chair. There's no more discussion.
I just got a question.
yeah, I
Oh,
think
sorry,
Director Davis. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair to staff, I'm just wondering, in staff's opinion, if there is anything that you could bring forward that would follow this potential motion.
I believe Director Colburn may have a subsequent after this that may fill that gap.
Thanks.
All right, so we'll call question. All in favor? Can't see everyone in the boardroom there.
That was everyone, I think, yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you. Motion carried. And I believe now is the time for the subsequent.
For
Is that
sure.
correct?
So I'll make a motion that staff prepare a summary report of the works done to date by the First Nations Relations Committee meeting, or committee.
Thank you. Motion on the floor.
Second that, Vanesh.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion? I see someone with their hand up.
That'd be me. Is all of this information on the portal on the website already? So
Yeah, yes, it's on, we have the information on the portal, and all staff reports are accessible by directors, yeah.
okay, then I won't support the motion because I don't see any reason for it. We can go on the portal and get our own information, write our own reports if we want to. It's all available there.
Can I ask another question? Oh,
I think Director Vanesh has his hand up, or went up and down.
Yeah, just a question through the chair to Julie, whether that, whether knowing that changes your motion request.
it doesn't change my motion or my request. And the reason being, I think that the last time we had an iteration of an actual summary, I think there's been more work done since then. And so, yeah, I mean, it would be a simple matter of kind of a, cut and paste from our last summary that was done and then including the things that have been done since that period, so.
All right. Thank you. Mark, were you wanting to say something else while your hand is up again? Okay. Thank you. So we have the motion on the floor. All in favor? I'll call question. All in favor? All right. Is that everyone in the boardroom?
No, it wasn't everyone.
And opposed? Okay. And opposed?
Unopposed, Mr. Chair. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. All right. So that brings us to termination.
Just hold on.
And
I think Director Davis has his hand up.
Well,
okay, Director Davis.
I just saw we sort of ran over a bunch of different potential topics. There is director reports there, and I was just going to make a small report, if that's okay, if the chair so pleases.
Up to the chair. I think maybe next time when we're adopting the agenda, if you had a chair's report, we'd put a item in there.
Sure, that's fine.
Up to you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, I'm okay. I'm okay with that. With that addition. Yes, go ahead, Director Davis.
Okay. It's just a short report. I just wanted to talk about current dealings of Council of Village of Tassus in conjunction with Mochop-Mushlet First Nation. We did meet with them, about 10 days ago, and we're working on a memorandum of understanding with them regarding joint economic development planning for our communities. This includes possible investment in Tassus by Mochop-Mushlet First Nation, which has pending, I guess, what would I say, investment from the Village of Tassus as well, in creating a new accommodation in town, developing a joint tourism program, joint planning on forestry. The Village of Tassus is very interested in having a community forest for Tassus, and MMFN are in agreement with this and working on this because they also have their own logging company, would be interested in becoming partners. We're also working on trails planning in the area and consulting regarding the provincial old growth strategy, which is yet to be finalized, but we're pretty much on the same page in regards to protecting certain areas of old growth in the Tassus region. So I just wanted to put that out there, that we're working very close with them, and we're currently working on a joint economic development study too. So that's my report.
Thank you.
Motion
You
to
guys
receive.
thank you. Motion to receive. Do we need a seconder?
Director Dahl did.
Okay, thank you. I'll open that up for discussion.
That's great to hear.
Yes, you guys are very busy, and it's awesome. Go ahead.
One other thing I was going to add, I forgot to mention, is we're also working on a data sharing agreement too, just sharing data on what we know in Tassus regarding cultural, like First Nations cultural sites in our region, because a lot of that information has been lost to the First Nation, and we're party to some information which we're passing along. So just in the spirit of cooperation and building those bridges, we feel like it's important to do these sort of things. So, yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Just question on receipt, I think, Mr. Chair.
I'll call question on receipt. All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you.
Move termination, Colburn.
Second that, Vinesh.
Any discussion? Thank you guys for putting up with me for this first meeting. Thank you for allowing me to be nominated again, and I look forward to more meetings together. These are our Wednesday meetings. I'll call question. All in favor? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr.
Right,
Chairman. At your convenience, of course, if you wish to come in, we'd certainly like to spend a few moments with you just talking about process and procedure during